we continue. Cnosian Rhadamanthus. Now, Rhadamanthus was the brother of King Minos in Crete. The capital of Crete is Knossos, and so Rhadamanthus here is called Cnosian Rhadamanthus. He was a judge. Rhadamanthus of Knossos holds these very hard kingdoms and punishes, he castigates, and he hears their deceits, and he compels them to confess, or forces them to confess whatever crimes committed, whatever piacula commissa, crimes committed, someone having rejoiced in vain stealth among those above, deferred into late death. So it's a very difficult passage here, but starting with subigit fateri, and forces them to confess whatever crimes committed, someone having rejoiced in vain stealth among those above, deferred into late death. In other words, we always think that we commit crimes and, I got away with it. And we say, you got away with it now, but you'll pay the price later. And the Romans had the same idea. And so, you stole that person's whatever, but you're going to pay the penalty later. Well, that's the idea. Continuo, suddenly. Tisiphone, leaping upon the santis, that's accusative plural, the guilty, the avengerous, gird with a whip, Tisiphone, leaping upon the guilty, quatit, shakes them. You just remember the Quakers, quakes them, quakes the guilty. And in 10 tons, stretching out fierce anguis, that's also accusative, snakes on the left side. She calls the savage bands of her sisters. So she's a fury, but there's more than one fury. So we're talking about the furies here. Now the furies had their name changed in one Greek story to the Eumenides. Eumenides meaning the kindly-minded ones is kind of a euphemism. They have a good side in the sense that they take vengeance on those who hurt family members. And so even though that's terrifying, it's also a good thing, right? They protect family relationships. Then at last, the gates are open. Now, the Sibyl's talking, and so she's saying what is happening in her experience, I think, with Hecate. Then, finally, the gates creaking on their horrible-sounding hinge, the sacred gates are open. So then at length, the sacred gates, creaking on their horrible-sounding hinge, are open. Do you see? Now, indirect questions take a subjunctive in their clause, in their indirect question clause. So indirect questions take subjunctive verbs. Here's an indirect question. Do you see what sort of guardian sits, there's the subjunctive, let's highlight it for you, sits in the vestibule? What form guards the thresholds? So we've had Tisiphone, and she's sitting there at the gate, and the guilty appear, and I think the Sibyl's watching this with Hecate. She's remembering when she saw this, and the guilty come up, and Tisiphone leaps upon them and just quakes them to their souls. She stuns them, and then the gates open on their creaking hinge. Do you see what sort of guardian sits in the vestibule? What form guards the thresholds? So as you try to get into Tartarus, you find there Hydra, huge, with 50 black mouths. Fiercer within holds the abode, abode within. So right on the other side of the gate, once it opens, you're faced with the Hydra with the 50 snakes coming off of its body. So going back to Cairnus, do you see what sort of guardian sits in the vestibule? What form guards the threshold? Hydra with 50 black mouths, huge, more fierce, holds the abode within. Then Tartarus itself, Patit, opens up twice into such a great pryceps, I'm going to call it drop off, and aims its way under the shades as much as the view upward of heaven, Kylie, to ethereal Olympus. So we have a correlative, you see, Tantum, Tartarus itself twice opens up into such a drop-off and heads under the shades as much as, so there's a kind of comparison going on. You can, Tartarus, it just goes into an abyss. You go across the threshold and there's like an abyss there. And it's as far down as it is upward towards heaven. Here, the ancient race of the earth, the Titanian offspring, the Titans, in other words, who were cast down by a thunderbolt, are rolled into the lowest depths.